Hey guys, today we are going to take this procumbens Juniper that I got at a standard nursery for around $6 and see if we could take these clippers here and try to turn it into some sort of bonsai looking tree by the end of our little session, so stay tuned. Yeah! So I'm indoors today because I'm getting over a pretty nasty cold that I had over the weekend, and it's actually pretty chilly outside too, so I don't want to make it worse for myself. So yeah, I thought I'd do it a little differently. Be in the kitchen here where there's linoleum, so if there's dirt or branches that spill on the ground, it's easy to clean up. Anyway, it's a small enough tree that sometimes it's fun to work on trees inside with the music playing in the background or a TV show on or something, so therapeutic. So I'm going to start by just chopping off the big, longer branches. Now, a little kind of story. I bought one of these at the same nursery several months ago, and one of these branches was like really long, and so I intend to eventually make it a some sort of cascade style. But let's start, before I chop off the branches, just by kind of pulling this out a little bit and checking out the trunk. Hopefully you can see that. So pretty small trunk, but it's actually really hard to see. Let me make sure that's in the camera angle. Yeah, it's pretty hard to see because it's so thick with foliage, but that's what drew me to it. Is like, this thing is like so tight, and procumbens nana are really good for bonsai because of their tight foliage, and the needles and everything about it just is so compact and really looks good as a bonsai. So, but before I kind of work on the tree-ish shape, I'm going to start by just cutting off the branches I know I don't want, which will be these, starting with the long ones sticking out randomly, because I'm not going to make this into a cascade or semi-cascade style. I want it to be more of a park tree, just sort of maybe informal upright or different layers, but with a general like rounded shape. So let's check it out. So yeah, I'm going to start by removing most of the length of these longer ones, and just seeing what we have to work with after that. Juniper, as often used as they are in bonsai, I have not done very much with juniper, so I'm always trying to learn about them as I go and watch quite a few videos on them and stuff, but I myself don't have too much experience with them. Besides, you know, typical second, third bonsai that I bought was one of those very generic tiny ones that are sort of shaped. They come up and then they just make a right, and they're hanging over like they're in like a cheesy pot, maybe hanging over like a little ornament or some rock ornament. But yeah, I remember, I think my second or third bonsai I bought what died pretty quickly. I had no idea what I was doing, so I was learning, definitely learning as I went, which I'm still doing. So take off, yeah, most of these, but I'm super stoked for $6. Now, if I were to give this to a true master, they'd probably turn this thing into a masterpiece by the end of their time. But today, I'm just going to do my best to try to turn it into something pretty. So, getting a phone call. I need to take this actually. Sorry about that. Important phone call I had to take. Okay, so I've already chopped off most of the thick branches. Now what we have left is just a few little ones sticking out here and there, but honestly it's a little hard to see what's going on because of where the pot's at. So what I'm probably going to try to do right now is maybe see if I can cut this down, or maybe I'll just pull it out and stick like a rock at the bottom of the pot so that it's elevated. I think I'm going to try that. So bear with me for a second. Okay, I found this little quail. So I'm going to see if I can pull this guy out. Stick the quail in. Okay, there we go. That's more elevated. I'm going to lift up the camera just a hair. Well, that didn't work. Whoa! Okay, So now I got a much clearer view of the, hey, little roly-poly, much clearer view of the trunk, which is still quite a bit covered by little needles and branches. So next, before I do any more trimming on the outer, I'm going to go inside and start clearing out the branches, try to get some air and light to start shining through. So in this area. Okay. Clippity clippity clip. Oh, is that a spider egg sac? What is that? Oh, nice. Oh, it's already hatched. Very cool. Hopefully not in here. My wife would not be happy. Oopsie. So I want to be careful because even though a branch at the base looks really thin, like this one that I just cut looked really thin until I cut it, and then it's actually a pretty thick clump. So I don't want to do too much of that as to take away the immediate tree shape that this plant already has. So I'll try to go a little bit slower, be a little more careful. And then little branches that are hanging down, those aren't really going to add to it, especially if I want to see the trunk. So I can clip those because I know I'm not going to want to make use of those. Let's go to the back here. Start trimming some of these. So what this kind of reminds me of is sort of the live oaks that we have in California. Oftentimes they've got massive trunks, but the branches split off really low to the ground. Like some of them you could just walk right up the trunk onto these branches that sprawl out. And they get pretty tall, but they're real wide, like kind of canopying oak trees that all up along Southern California, up through Central California, and probably beyond. There's just beautiful live oaks and throughout like the fields and stuff. If you're going on a road trip, you see them like through Central California, Santa Barbara, Cambria, all up the coast. And so maybe that's kind of how I'll develop this guy, is into sort of that live oak look. Just like the ultimate tire swing tree. So these branches here, they're hanging low. Chop those off. So it's already really starting to look a lot more like a tree now. So now we almost have two distinct pads going on, like basically like this side of the tree and this side of the tree. And you know, we could, I think what I don't want to do is really separate, at least as of right now. I don't want to separate into two different pads. I want it to almost stay a full, complete looking tree. So what I'll do is, the way where these are connected, which is right here, I won't trim any of that because I want it to be almost mixed in. If I'm looking at the tree, I think I'll do a little bit more lower branch trimming, because I want this to look like a tree that, you know, a miniature person would be able to walk under and look up and admire it without getting leaves in their face. Can you imagine a giant juniper the size of like a huge oak tree with the needles that were like 2 inches long walking into that? I guess it's kind of like a pine tree. So now that it's developing more and more into a tree, check that out. Really liking that. This gap right here, I think was because of that one branch that I told you didn't look like much until I trimmed it. But that's okay. That could kind of fill in, and you know what I can do is even go through and pinch off some of the little branches that are in between the bigger ones to even give it more light and space, and give each almost a little bit of dimension to the pads, and then continue to get the ones that are hanging lower until it's where I want it to be. Okay, so I'm really liking this. So now that I've got it kind of cleared out some of the inside, I want to go back to the outside and look at anything I don't want. So right here, where it's kind of sticking out the side, I'm going to bring that in a little bit tighter. So let's cut some of those branches off. And you know, as tight as the foliage already is, I'm not worried about if I'm going to cut too much off, because I'm sure, because it's already so tight, it will only just continue to get tighter and look more and more epic tree-ish. And out here, I'll trim just a little bit, like a little bit of these edges off. Don't mind my bird. So I'm going to come inside and pull a little bit more of the main branches that are, or more, pull a little bit more off the main branches, so there's a little bit more air and light coming through, so it doesn't look too dark and dismal. But I'm liking it. I'm so sorry, my camera turned off and I have no idea when, so I'll find out when I go back to edit, but sorry about that. So some of the process might not be on camera, but basically I was just, you know, we started with cutting off the big branches, the ones sticking out. We went inside and started plucking all the ones at the trunk, all the ones that were hanging or pointing down, and then then we brought it back in tighter on the outer edges. So now we have a couple different views that we could look at this tree at. There's that angle, which looks really cool, and then this angle, which as of right now I'm leaning towards as being the front, because I just feel like it's a little bit more welcoming, the angle of it and everything. It's amazing how a plant could look just like a plant, but really does have a certain side that's more appealing than the other side. But yeah, I think I like this as the front, almost like a cool little section here where like an owl would live, or someone could have a tree house in here or something. But yeah, as I was saying before the camera died, the trunk, not amazing looking, but definitely hopefully will thicken up over time. And all I'm going to do now is just kind of look through, see if there's any other little thin branches that are just sort of stragglers in the mix, and pull those out, create a little more space. But besides that, I'm really happy with how this looks, and I think I want to pot this guy because I'm impatient, but I think it'll already look pretty cool in a bonsai pot, or at least a trainer pot, terracotta training kind of pot. So well, I'll either so yeah, I think I'll either show that in this video or do a part 2, just so the video is not too long. But yeah, there we go, an easy $6 juniper bonsai that you can do in your kitchen. What? Alright, thanks for watching.